Okay, we're back coming at you with a new movie from the UK. It's a suspense thriller slash horror starring Neil Maskell and Michael Smiley, co-written and directed by a newcomer named Ben Wheatley. It's called The Kill List. Let's start off, Ryan, what did you think?
I quite enjoyed it. I liked how the movie sort of like embodies a crescendo style where it starts off. Personally, I thought it was a little bit bland as it started off. Just a lot of yelling and the family drama elements, and I wasn't quite sure what kind of movie this was going to be.
It starts off really slow with them just having a dinner party.
Turns out being about a man who gets a series of sort of mysterious contract killings, and each contract kill that he goes to gets a little bit more intense, with the repercussions being a bit more dire until the final climactic scene. And I think as it grows, it gets ever more engaging, and the characters get more interesting, and their actions get more interesting because of it. And I thought the climax was extremely potent, and I really enjoyed the film.
I really agree with you about how it builds up. It really like picks up speed as it goes along. It has a lot of energy, and like the dynamic relationship between the two leads, I thought was really good. They both did a really interesting job, really good job. It does use some really weird camera techniques and cutting techniques that I noticed. Like it has this recurring trick that it'll use where two people will be having a conversation and then it'll cut away to something else, but the conversation will still be audible, but something else will be happening on screen.
Well, that was one of my drawbacks for the film, was some of the editing techniques, I thought. One specifically that I thought it would do, and it would just... mostly what it took away from was the establishment of any consistent, the tone is fairly consistent, you get a sense, but it's sort of disruptive. It makes it a bit uneven whenever, for an example, there'll be a huge argument going on between the wife and the husband, and then it'll cut away, and then they'll be in the bed and they'll be kissing.
Yeah. And
it's just things like that I couldn't really grasp the motive or the reasoning behind why they would disrupt that so much. I mean, directorial choice, obviously, but that kind of thing didn't work for me.
Definitely. What kind of ruined it for me, though, was, as you said, the ending builds to this crescendo and it becomes very intense, but it didn't come with a lot of closure for me. Like, they don't explain most of what's going on. It's more about the suspense and the atmosphere, what's happening, but I kept expecting them to come out with more exposition or more ideas as to what exactly is happening, and they never really did, which bugged me a little because I expected more.
I felt completely the opposite. I thought the ending was the best part of the entire film. I thought the ambiguity worked to play the suspense and the haunting, terror aspect of it that much more. I felt if it would have been explained, it wouldn't have been as eerie. It wouldn't have been as creepy. It would have just been like, oh, okay, that happened. Then I would have forgot about it. After leaving the movie, you keep thinking about what did happen in the ending. It's not a frustrating ending. I thought it was completely satisfying, and one that made you remember Kill List as a very effective suspense thriller.
That is true. There is something to be said for mystery and playing things close to the vest and not divulging too much. So
yeah,
I definitely see where you're coming from. Really violent too.
Yeah.
I'm fairly desensitized to violence. There are scenes in this movie that really made me wince.
It was interesting though. I think there's a lot of lead up to violence, and I think the violence is brutal, but it's briefly brutal. It's in the vein of like we saw in Drive, where it's huge build-ups and there's just brief amounts of violence, but it's very effective whenever it does come about.
And they don't shy away from showing the brutal stuff. You would see what's about to happen, and you would expect them to cut away from something, but they don't. You see horrible stuff happening, center frame pretty much.
So overall?
Overall, I would recommend it, but only just. I still am a little unsatisfied with the way it turned out, but it's still a really good movie.
I thought it completely surprised me. It grew to, like I said, to this really important climax, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I did. I'd say definitely go see it.
All right, so that's out of you. Go check this one out.
Shalom. Hi.
Really good to see you.
Good to see you too. You look so pretty.
Oh, are you serious? I feel like this outfit just screams like I've been living in Ohio for 4 years. Take me back to your gross apartment and have sex with me. Honey, I'm home. Family? here with my mom and my sister, who's 17.
I just got off a plane for Ohio. I'm in a postgraduate delirium.
I think you sound like you're in the epilogue to Felicity.
Lena Dunham's New York set feature debut has been compared to Woody Allen. It was released last year, but didn't get a very wide release, and luckily Criterion caught it and are going to be releasing it in a few weeks, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really funny film. It's a really good film. It's autobiographical in some ways. What do you think of the film, Ethan?
I enjoyed it too. There's definitely a lot of good, awkward humor. Not necessarily always laugh out loud, but definitely lots of cringing, but in a good way, because it's relatable. Even maybe if...
It's pretty dry humor.
Yeah.
Like,
and it captures that New York scene in a pretty interesting way, and how kind of all these people were art students, and they're all artists in a way, like they all make YouTube videos. Like there's a character she's kind of seeing.
Really,
yeah, the
and everyone's like a douchebag. And
yeah.
I think we talk about these actresses like doing brave performances and do it. I think Lena Dunham actually like goes out there and just puts herself all out there. She's not the most attractive person. We're not really used to seeing that kind of like people on screen. But
Yeah.
she just like she has scenes with her pants off, and she has her sister like making fun of her because she's fat, and actually like making like just accepting the fact that this is who she is. And
Yeah. And what's interesting about that too is how she casts her real life mother and sister as her mother and sister in the movie.
well, I guess it's like it's low budget, but also because like it definitely felt more real.
Yeah, yeah.
And felt like they were actual family.
And they use a scene where they're showing her background, an actual YouTube vid she made in college too. So obviously, yeah, the autobiographical element of this film is pretty interesting. Like it goes probably a step further than most movies do.
Yeah. Did you? How funny did you think of it? There were some scenes that made me laugh like really loud, just like really awkward. She makes out with a guy like on a sidewalk, and just the way it's shot is just like it's a close up, so you're not sure, and then it pans out and they're just on the floor, and it's like, oh man.
It didn't quite make me laugh like the way King Ralph did, but it is very funny.
Yeah. What do you think about these comparisons to Woody Allen? Is it because she's like sort of weird looking, and is this a bit of a New York set and a bit of intellectualism as well?
I guess I can see that as well, but in a way, I think, again, she's female, which is interesting, how people sometimes, well, Woody Allen writes very strong female characters, but still there's something I think she brings to the table that maybe he couldn't.
Yeah, I really liked the movie. I thought it was really funny, and I'm really glad that someone was able to make this movie despite the political climate of the film industry. Tiny Furniture is on Netflix Watch Instantly right now, and also is going to be released on Criterion in a few weeks, so I say definitely check it out. Yeah.
It's a big recommendation from me as well.
Yeah.
Not just because it's on Criterion. Okay?
Sure, Ethan, sure.
My DVD pick is for The Thing 2011. It doesn't come out till January 31st, so I haven't seen the actual DVD because we don't get freebies. Here's looking at you for some freebies, people. But the special features are probably awesome. The movie was awesome. The special effects obviously weren't as good as the original, but the monsters had this kind of Resident Evil zombie brain panther versus like Slither Grant kind of vibe, if you know what I'm saying. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead was in it, and she's a fine piece. And that guy that was in True Calling, do you guys remember that show? That was a good show. And he was in Dumb and Dumberer. It was kind of nice to see him back in the saddle. It was a good movie. Lots of people die.
My DVD pick for this week is Bennett Miller's Moneyball. It's not your typical underdog story, but it follows the 2002 Oakland Athletics, who, as general manager and assistant general manager, got a lot of players that nobody thought could do anything and made a serious run for the World Series. It's not your typical baseball movie either, because it follows more of the numbers side of things, kind of in the vein of the Social Network. And mentioning the Social Network, it's also co-written by Aaron Sorkin, as well as Steve Zalian. It's a great, fast-paced film with a lot of punchy dialogue, and I highly recommend that you see it. It's out on Blu-ray and DVD now.
My pick of the week is predictably from the Criterion Collection, and predictably being reissued on Blu-ray. Yeah, Thomas. That choice, of course, would be a film from one of my favorite directors, Steven Soderbergh, his Academy Award-winning 2000 film Traffic. Of course, this is an epic, multi-storyline film about the drug war. What was notable about the film, aside from the very ambitious storytelling, was Soderbergh's visual style. He often serves as a cinematographer and editor on his films, and you can really tell here that there's a distinct touch. The use of color in the film is pretty amazing, in my opinion, and sets it apart from other films of its ilk. So if you haven't seen Traffic yet, it's kind of a classic. Now's the time, because it's being put out on beautiful Blu-ray.